This is tutorial 2-3, creating custom classes for a map in the GIS tutorial 1 basic workbook. In the previous tutorial, we used a standardized classification method of quantile, which took our features and divided them equally among different classes. That is not always going to be the case for a lot of data that you can use, and there's not going to be a classification method included in any GIS that might fit your needs. So that's why we're going to have to learn to use the manual classification, where you choose what range of values each class has. This is very common if you're dealing with data that deals with concentrations. For safety reasons, it doesn't easily fit in a method like equal interval or quantile. It's something that an industry or agency standard would set. I'm continuing from the tutorial 2-2 MXD. So the first thing I want to do is go up and make sure that this is all saved. And then I'm going to click Save As and save it as tutorial 2-3. Click Save. Then I'm going to open up the properties for US counties. And in the General tab, I'm going to change the name to Vacant Housing by County. In description, you could include things like the year that the data is from. And for credits, you could include the US Census Bureau. But they don't ask for that, so we're not going to do it. We're going to go back to the Symbology tab. And in the classification box, we're going to choose Classify. Right now, we're set on Quantile, which we used last. And we're going to change the number of classes to 6. You can see that our values over here have changed. And we're going to change the method from quantile to manual. Now it's very important to change the number of classes before changing the method, because now it is grayed out. So how would you fix this? Well, you just go to any other method and it changes it. Now you could go to manual and change it to manual, or you can just go over to break values and enter in the first value, which is 6,000. And then hit enter. And you can see up here that it's changed the method automatically to manual. The next value is going to be 12,000. Enter. And you can see that it will arrange the values in order. So this can be a little annoying. So you have to make sure you're changing the correct one. So the next value is going to be 24,000, 48,000. Oops, and I got two 48,000s, so I have to turn one back to 6,000. I'm going to go to natural breaks and rechange it. I have a feeling this one might work a little bit better, so I'm going to change 6,000, 12,000, 48,000, 96,000. Let's see, I have 6, 12, and I'm missing a 24. I don't know why that's doing that. I don't know if this is a new issue for the version I'm using, which is 10.6.1, but that's never occurred in the earlier versions. So you're just going to want to make sure that you go from 6,000 to 12, 24, 28, or 24, 48, 96, and then you're going to leave the last value as is. And if you click on the first value, you can see that it's got 2678 of the features. And then it goes down to 298 features in the second class, the third with 143, 61 in the fourth, 28 in the fifth, and finally 11 in the sixth. So I'm just going to click OK. In the last tutorial, we already got rid of all the decimal places and added the thousand separator. But if you had to start over, you'd have to go to Label, Format Labels, and this is where you would change that. We're going to make our legend a little bit easier to read for, say, the general public. So rather than have it say 11 to 6,000, we're going to change it to 6,000 or less. And for the last one, we're going to change it to the 96,001 or greater. Now it's a little bit easier to read. Over here in this legend from the quantile method, you can see the numbers look very odd at first glance, and general public might not care for that, or even some industries. We're going to click OK, and you can see our map has changed a lot. We have many more lower values than higher values. We're going to repeat this manual classification for our cities, so we're going to open up properties for that. We're going to go to classify. For this one, we're going to keep the 5 classes, and over here I'm going to type in 500,000, then 1 million, then 2 million, $4 million, and we're going to keep the last value as is. So you should have 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 4 million, and then whatever the last value is. We're going to click OK. And in here we're going to clean this up a little bit by putting 500,000 or less, or 4,000,001 or greater. We're going to click OK. And as you can see, we have fewer large cities. This just goes to show you how the classification method could really change the narrative of a map. With quantile, we had much different looking map, as well as a view on the population for those cities. If you use a certain kind of classification over and over with the same exact values for very similar layers, like US counties, you might want to create a layer file that will save your classification method. So we're going to go to the table of contents and right-click vacant housing by county. We're going to go to save as layer file, and you're going to make sure that you're in the My Exercise Chapter 2 folder, and you're going to save it as, we're going to change this. Often you'd want to keep it something easily remembered for the name, but for this we're going to call it Tutorial 2-3. Then click Save. Now we're going to add a new layer. We're going to go up to Add Data. The last geodatabase that I added data from was from New York City, so I have to go up to Data, then go into the United States geodatabase, and find US counties, which is right here. You can add that. You might get this warning, just click Close if you do. We're going to right-click our US counties and go to Properties, go to General, and we're going to name this Owner Occupied by County. And again, for description, you'd want to probably include what year this is from and who gave you the data. We're going to go to the Symbology tab, and then we're going to click the Import button. Now, you can sometimes choose to use a symbology from an existing layer, but we're going to browse to the one that we just saved. So we're going to go to the GIST1, My Exercises, Chapter 2, and then you're going to choose the Tutorial 2-3 layer, and then click Add. Then you're going to click OK. And it's going to ask you what value field you want to use. Do you want to use the same, vacant, or do you want to use a different one? So we're going to open this, and we're going to choose Owner. OCC. Then you're going to click OK, and then OK again. With this, you can see that there are a lot more darker colors. I'm going to go into our owner occupied by county, and I just want to check the histogram. So as you can see, the final class does not include all the values. It does include 124, but there are many more values. So I'm going to change this to 1, 4. And it didn't add many. It brought it to 124 to 169, but those were counties that were not included in the symbology at all. So that is one thing that you have to be careful about when you're using imported classification. You have to make sure that the value range is reasonable and correct, or you're going to omit data, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So I'm going to click OK. And I have to go in here and I have to change this to 6,000 or less. Or greater. But you can see I did save a lot of time by importing that, and this would have worked a lot better if I had done the owner occupied by county first, because that would totally include the vacant housing. So I'm going to click OK. And you probably didn't notice where those values are just because we're looking at so many that it would be difficult to spot them. But that is one of the dangers. So I'm going to click and drag counties all the way down to the bottom and turn off vacancy, because right now we're looking at vacancy. And now we're looking at homeowners. For the year turn, they want us to repeat this, but showing the renter occupied. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. So we're going to go up to add data. We're going to go to our data folder, United States Geodatabase, and US counties. Yes to the message. Now I'm going to come in here into the properties. I'm going to name it renter occupied by county. Then I'm going to symbology, and I'm going to import again. But rather than browse to that tutorial 2-3 layer, I'm going to use the owner occupied by county. And then I'm going to click OK. It's going to ask me what field I want to use. So I want to change this from owner OCC to renter OCC. And I've been using the ones down here because these have 00, so I don't know if that's just 2000 and these are more recent. So I'm going to stick with these ones down here. Then I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to go into the classify. And once again, we can see that a few values are being omitted. Right now we have 80. So if I change this to 696,455, it only included one more. So it's not as bad, but still, you don't want to omit data. So we're going to click OK. And because we made some changes, we have to go in and change this to 6,000 or less. And this to or greater. So if you're creating a layer file to import symbology, I highly recommend that you create your map with all your layers first, and then find out which one covers your data the best, and use that as the template. We're going to drag it all the way down to the bottom. And right now we can see the owner's occupied, so let's turn this off, and we can see where the renters all live. And no surprise, New York and New Jersey have a lot of high values, but so does Southern California. A lot of the southern coast for Florida, which makes a little sense, I guess. Probably seasonal renters. I'm surprised with this up here in Washington. That's probably one of the major cities though. Make sure that you save your map. And that concludes this video.